In a civilized and cultivated country, wild animals only continue to exist at all when preserved by sportsmen. The excellent people who protest against all hunting and consider sportsmen as enemies of wildlife are ignorant of the fact that in reality, the genuine sportsman is, by all odds, the most important factor in keeping the larger and more valuable wild creatures from total extermination. President Theodore Roosevelt.
We had a big dairy farm, and the family farm. We had 500 head of Jerseys when Dad and Mom decided to retire. My brother and I had some other work, a business going, and we decided not to be dairy farmers ourselves. It's a rough life. So now we had more time to pursue my passion of hunting, and my dad as well. Now we didn't have to milk cows twice a day, 7 days a week. Like I said, we had time to do what we wanted to do. Our first trips were out west, hunting mule deer and elk, and my dad accompanied me, my brother did too. And as time went on, I developed an interest in basically international hunting. Up until that time, we just hunted animals here in North America. And at one point, I had taken almost everything available in North America, but I lacked a big brown bear. And in order to get a brown bear, you have to go into southwestern Alaska on the Alaska Peninsula or on Kodiak Island. I have taken several grizzly bears, but now I wanted to set my sights on a big brown bear. Now, actually, to give a little history, all your grizzly bears are made up of the interior grizzly, the Kodiak bear, and the brown bear. Genetically, they're all the same bears, but a grizzly bear is what they call inland grizzly, interior Alaska, Rocky Mountain in Colorado, Montana, Wyoming, Yellowstone Park. Those are the same bears as we have on Kodiak Island or the Alaska Peninsula. What the difference is their environment and what their diet, what they have to eat. The interior grizzlies live a rough life. Most of the time their winters are 7 months long. The food is not as rich or plentiful as they are on Kodiak or the peninsula. Now you take Kodiak Island, for instance, the winters are milder, the salmon run the streams, food is more plentiful, and life is easier, basically. The winters are shorter, so they have more time to eat and the environment's more favorable, they grow bigger. Kodiak Island, same way, Alaska Peninsula, same way. All the bears on Kodiak Island, they call them Kodiak bear because that's where they're taken from. But genetically, they're all the same. I had my sights on a big brown bear hunt. I wanted to have one for my collection. So I booked a hunt with an outfitter that conducts hunts on the Alaska Peninsula. The area we hunted was about even with the south end of Kodiak Island. So we were not clear out at the end of the Aleutian chain. We were still fairly just getting into the Alaska Peninsula. But the bear population is very high. And the outfitter assured me if the weather cooperated, we would not have trouble finding bears. There's plenty of bears there. And it would be unusual if I was not able to harvest a bear. Time came to hunt. We flew into a little Eskimo village, Indian village, I guess you'd call it, down on the peninsula. And from there, the outfitter picked me up on a little Super Cub airplane, very small plane with Tundra tires, and 2 people sit. That's the maximum load. The passenger sits behind the pilot, and you put your gear, your duffel bag, your rifle, and so forth, pack it in around you, and for the flight in. The outfitter had already taken my guide in the day before, and he had set up a camp, had our tent and everything there on a big sandy beach in a very, very pretty area. Interesting thing is, on the way into camp, the wind was blowing very hard. And the little super cub, pretty fragile in a way, instead of going up over the top of the mountain to drop into the bay on the other side where our camp was, he decided to go around the end of it and stay lower out of the wind. As we're rounding the end of this mountain, it looked like a giant loaf of bread, really. As we rounded the end, the plane, we still don't know what happened. It caught into a downdraft or some kind of an erratic wind, and all at once the plane is the wings are vertical, and I'm looking out of my window on the side on my left shoulder, and I could see the surf on the rocks as the waves broke in on the rocks, and the pilot says, "Hang on, we're going down." Well, nobody likes to hear those words. And the ironic thing that struck me is I could feel all kinds of stuff coming out of the nooks and crannies. Like I say, the plane was sideways. The wings were pointing down and up. And stuff was falling out. There was pencils and who knows what. Everything coming out of the nooks and crannies, rattling around. And all at once, I'm looking out the window, and all at once the plane just became normal. The wings caught and smoothed out, and everything was good. Now, this seemed like this happened, it took a long time, but really it probably just matter a minute or so, but it felt like a lifetime. Anyway, things settled down and we glide in and land on the nice sandy beach there, and the guide was there waiting for me to get out of the plane and carry my duffel and rifle and stuff up to the tent, and he didn't know anything about it. He wasn't aware of what happened because we were far enough away. He didn't know. The pilot takes off, goes back to the other main camp, and we settle in. And in Alaska, you cannot hunt the same day you fly. So that afternoon, we just had time to sit out and put our spotting scopes up in the mountains and look for these big bears that are just coming out of hibernation. This season that I hunted happened to be in the spring. And what the bears do, the big boar bears come out of the dens first, out of the snow. And the main reason for them to come out is to try to find something to eat, and they head for the green grass where the snow line is moving up the mountain actually every day as the temperature warms, and to find a female so they can begin breeding. So they have to get out of the den early and get to work, really. So we're sitting on a little rise out just behind our tent, and we're looking, and we look up at the snow line up on near the top of the mountains, and we spot 3 or 4 bears that afternoon. So my hopes were high for success the next day. The next morning we get up, and we didn't want to walk around too much because if you leave your scent in these bays where the bears can get the wind and smell you, they're gone. They'll just spook and they'll just leave the country. So we were very careful of where we walked. Just behind the camp, inland a little bit, maybe 300 yards, there was a little hill, just a hummock stood up out of the bottom, and we were able to get up there and set on some rocks and set our spotting scopes up, and immediately we started seeing bears. And they said the population was high, but I can't believe we saw as many as we did. There was actually no shortage of bears. There were bears everywhere. So what we did is looked several of them over and decided that the one we wanted to go after, to stalk. Now, a bear is probably one of the hardest animals in North America to judge size-wise. The record books keep bears records as the size of the skulls, not the weight or the size of the body. They measure the skulls. It's the width plus the length after the skull is cleaned up and bleached and dried 60 days. Then it goes into the Boone and Crockett record book if it's big enough. So we see this big bear come evidently just freshly out of his den, and he's walking a downslope down to the snow line. And like I say, as the snow melts, the snow line moves up the mountain and green grass. Well, these bears come out, and the first thing they have to do is to eat something, preferably green grass for some reason, and that unplugs them, because they've been in the den all winter, and they haven't gone to the bathroom, so they have I guess you call it a gigantic plug, or mother of all plugs or something. Anyway, he's moving down the mountain, going along the snow line, and we plan a route to intercept him as he's coming down. Well, at the head of this bay, there was a glacier, and the stream coming out of the glacier was running high, fairly high, because of the melt from the glacier, and just as cold as it could be, it was cold. So we had hip boots on, and we come up to the river, and we had to cross it to get on the other side where the bear was. While we were out of sight, where we couldn't see him, he changed course. And as we came out of the river and got up on the bank where we could see again, he was really coming down right towards us. We were kind of caught red-handed. So we did some quick moves so we could intercept him again as he come down to the bottom. And when I saw him again, he was about 75 yards away, eating grass down at the edge of the river. And there was a willow patch there with head-high willows, or 10-foot-high willows, real thick, just as thick as like hair on a dog. And as we're moving towards him, something happened. He didn't smell us because the wind was from him to me, to us. He evidently heard something, or maybe it's a sixth sense. I firmly believe that some of these wild animals have what we call a sixth sense. I don't understand it, but I've seen it many, many times. For some reason, that bear sensed danger. There was something that triggered him, that something wasn't right. He turned around, stood on his legs, on his hind legs, stood up, and looked right at us. As I got down on my knee, I had my big rifle ready, my .416 Remington, had it on my backpack, ready to shoot. As I got ready to pull the trigger, he dropped down on all fours and started away. I had a quartering away shot at him, which means he's headed away, straight away from me, but slightly turned to the right. So I had a shot at his right rear hip, and I had the crosshairs on the back side of his ribs on the right side, and the bullet would angle up, go right through him, and hopefully into the vitals and do the job. Well, I got one shot off, and then he kept moving. He run a little bit, and then now he's out of sight. Couldn't see him anymore. And now the guide asked me, he says, "Was it a good shot? Do you feel good with the shot?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "I put it where I wanted. I could see the bullet hit. I think he's hit hard." Okay, so now the excitement starts. And really, a hunter's nightmare is chasing a wounded bear in thick cover. And that could be very dangerous. Immediately, there was a huge blood trail. There was blood on the rocks and everything. But the patch of willow trees that he went in was so thick we couldn't see. Maybe 15 feet in front of us is about as far as we could see. So I'm on the blood trail, and the guide is with his rifle off on the side following, and it was up to me to stay on the blood trail. and he was my safety in case I needed help if this bear wasn't dead. So we walked in a little bit, and we came to a little small stream, a side stream where the river had run and when at high water. Not very big, maybe 6-8 feet wide and foot deep or so. The blood trail went into this little stream, but I couldn't find it. It didn't come out the other side. So that told us he went into this water and stayed in the water, and that's not a good sign. I told the guide, I said, let's get out of here. I don't like this. He said, let's back up. So we backed up to the place of beginning where he initially was standing when I shot. And what we determined is this patch of thick brush was very small, maybe an acre or so. It wasn't very big. So what we did, we circled it to the other side, looking for his trail out, because if he had moved out away out of this patch of brush, we would have seen his tracks. I mean, even if it wasn't bleeding, we would have seen his tracks on the rocks, because he would have left water on the rocks because the rocks were dry. And also, the back side of the patch of brush was right at the base of this mountain, and it was just almost straight up. I mean, it was really steep. So we kept our eye on that. We get around to the other side, the opposite side of this patch of brush. He didn't come out. So that told us he was somewhere in this patch of brush, and we did not want to go in after him. So what the guide suggested, we go back to where we started, and he said he's going to climb up the mountain, try to get up. And the way it worked out, I stayed down on the bottom. He climbed up maybe 50, 60 feet off the bottom, and there happened to be a kind of a little flat spot up there where he could sit down and not be in fear of falling down, because it was really steep. I watched him. He got up there, put his binoculars up to his eye, put him down, gave me a double thumbs up. So I knew everything was okay. And what I figured was the bear. He saw the bear, and it had died. It's down in there. Everything's going to be okay. So he wanted me to come up. So I climbed up. It was really steep. Like I say, take one step up and two backwards almost. But eventually I was able to get up to the top and sit up there with him. And we're just sitting there talking, reliving the whole experience, watching the bear. All at once he picks his head up. Uh-oh, he's still alive. So we watch a little bit, then he moves his head a little bit. He could hear us talking. So long story short, I had to put 3 more shots into him to kill him. It was hard to do because the poor guy was wounded, and I shot 3 more times. That was the end of the hunt. Anyway, we go back down, and now we have to process the bear. We have to go in and skin it and take care of it and get back to camp. So we go in, we follow the trail into where it come into the creek, where he walked in the water. And what he had done, he still had enough life in him and smarts enough to know enough to walk in that water to eliminate his trail. He came up to the edge of the creek, a little bank, and climbed up out of the water and laid down. But he was facing his backtrack. He was waiting for us. I don't know if he knew what we were, but he knew the danger was there. So that's what animals do. A lot of times they'll lay down and watch their backtracks so they can notice anything that's coming in behind them, following their trail. So we took pictures, did what we had to do, and we skinned him right there. And while we were rolling him around, he rolled into the water. And he was so big, this was a huge-bodied bear, we couldn't get him out of the water. And trying to skin a bear in cold water it was a tough job. It took it took a long time, probably 4 hours, maybe 5. We finally got the skin off of him and cut the head off, and now we're ready to go back to camp. And in Alaska, a bear is not required you're not required to salvage the meat on a bear. All other animals like sheep, goat, deer, so forth, when you harvest, when you take an animal, you have to salvage all edible meat. You don't dare leave it for waste. And like on a moose or any sheep or goat, the horns are the last item to be packed out. You have to take your meat first. And that's a very strict law. They really enforce that. You don't want to get charged with wanton waste of meat. Now, the guide has got the bear hide and the head on his shoulders, on his backpack. It had to weigh over 100 pounds. I could barely pick it up. I was probably almost 80 years old at the time, and I know I couldn't have done it. And we only had to go maybe a quarter of a mile to camp. But he had it on his shoulders, like I say, on his backpack. He was carrying his rifle, and he had the pack frame with a bear, and I carried his little backpack. So we start across this river. Now the river's higher than it was when we came in the morning because the sun had melted more glacier, the water was higher. It was touch and go, the water was pretty high. It went over the top of both of our hip boots. Cold water in our inside, our feet were cold. It was pretty miserable. So we finally make it across the creek and make it back to camp. Just pressure's off from us. Now we're able to really enjoy relaxation because we were tired. Now we're back at camp and the hard work is over. Now we can relax a little bit and just enjoy the rest of the hunt. After you skin the head out, you have to, I don't know how to explain it. You take your knife and just trim all the meat and gristle and so forth off the skull, and then sometime later you boil it, and that gets all the gristle and the meat and so forth off the skull, and then cleaned up, and they bleach it, and then you measure it for the record books. If it's big enough, it goes in the record books. Then the skin has to be processed, which the guy does. He lays it out on the ground with flesh up, hair down, and he goes around and scrapes the excess meat off the skin so it can be salted and dried and later tanned. So we had several days to go before the outfitter was to fly in and check on us to see if we were ready to leave camp and go back to the main camp and be finished. We fished a little bit, just relaxed. Probably the 4th or 5th afternoon, the outfitter flew in with the Super Cub to pick us up, and he wanted to take me out first so I could get a head start coming home, and then he and the guide would pack up camp and come in at a later date, bring the bear with them. So I get ready to get in the Super Cub, and the pilot comes over and asks me, he says, are you okay to fly? I said, what do you mean, okay? He says, well, we had that experience coming in. Are you gun shy or are you okay? And I've done a lot of hunting all around the world, actually, and I've been in little planes, I've been in helicopters, I've had some close calls. This was a close call, or could have been. It worked out okay. To back up just a bit, when we came in and he landed and we got out of the plane, and I asked him before he left, I says, what did you do to get the plane under control? His answer was nothing. Something happened, the wind flew, and the plane kind of corrected itself, and everything worked out fine. It could have been bad. So he asked me if I was okay to fly, and I said, yeah. I said, they got a saying, so if you've never been in a plane crash, you've never flown much in Alaska, or anywhere in the world where you go out into these hunting areas. Like I say, I've had several close calls. But anyway, he said, let's do a little sightseeing while the weather's nice. I think you'd be interested. He says, I want to show you some bear dens. So we took off and we flew. Instead of going back to the main camp, we went around the edge of a couple of mountains and stayed near the snow line so we could see. And we saw probably 5 or 6 dens. You could tell in the snow where the bears buried themselves in the fall. They find these areas where they crawl into, and the snow comes in, drifts over them, and actually they're covered with snow, and that's where they stay for the winter. And then in the spring, when the weather starts warming up, they come out of the den. And like I say, generally the first ones that come out are the big boars. And you can see where they come out of the entrance of their den. There'll be a hole in the snow and a lot of dirt and tracks and so forth around the entrance, because evidently sometimes they'll spend some time just around the entrance of their den before they leave, and then all at once they'll take off, and you can see a straight line headed away from the den, just bare tracks with dirt in them. And so then he took me back to camp and processed our license and so forth, made sure everything was in order, and he flew me back to Iliamna, and I caught commercial flights and come on my way home. But as it turned out, he was a big bear. He was almost 11 feet. He was over 10 feet squared, which is length plus width. And you can see him over my left shoulder here. We got him standing up. He's pretty impressive. The taxidermist did a great job on him. And I have to say he's probably the most photographed bear, at least in Ohio, I guarantee you, because everybody that comes through, I have a lot of people come through here to visit the trophy room. They all want their picture taken with this big brown bear.